Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Angie's Advice for Agents, the podcast about long-term care and extended care planning. And of course, it's the last Tuesday of the month, and we're coming to you live. And I'm excited to have Tim Vanoy with me here with One America. And thank you, Tim, for joining me.
Hey, Angie, appreciate the opportunity and always excited to share some different ideas and concepts with your group. So thank you.
Absolutely. Tim, I think I've titled this along with really kind of what you've got here as a template for us, but we're titling this podcast as The Conversation. And if we think about this, it should be a natural thing. If we all think about as we're raising our children, right, we always have to have that conversation with our children. And I'm kind of air quoting. You can't see that on a podcast, but as we have that conversation with our children, whether it be about the birds and the bees or, the drugs or the alcohol or whatever those things is, how many people have actually stopped and pondered about having a conversation now as an adult child to your parents, having that conversation about what do we do if someone's in need of care, and opening up that dialogue. And Tim, something comes to mind. I think I've heard carriers tell me that around the holidays, when obviously families are getting together and gathering and celebrating, whether it's Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Labor Day, any holidays, family birthdays, there seems to be a higher propensity of claims maybe being initiated or phone calls coming to the carriers. Have you guys experienced that?
Yeah, and Angie, we've seen that here at One America. And it's not uncommon that the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday after a holiday, we take Thanksgiving and then we get back, and Thanksgiving's that long weekend that the kids have come back maybe to mom and dad's house, and they're seeing kind of what's going on, kind of maybe firsthand. They maybe haven't seen him for a couple months, and they kind of see that's maybe not acceptable, or we need mom, or we need dad to need some more help, and so that becomes the outreach on that the following Monday or Tuesday for that, and the call volume increases because it's we need to start the claim process.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because what they just experienced over the couple of days of the holiday was unacceptable.
Yeah, and it's not just that mom's stuffing doesn't taste the same anymore. It's more dynamic than that. It's we're seeing some real deterioration in the health, whether that's just the aging process or really recognizing, maybe some memory issues or things of that nature. So I do see that being relevant. And I think as advisors to our clients, the last podcast, we talked about that Washington Cares Fund, the Washington Cares Act, and it's given us a great platform to bring up the conversation about extended care planning. But I don't know if a lot of agents know how to start that conversation, right? Because we really do have to start that conversation with our clients, not wait for them to bring it up. I just had a phone call today with an agent that knows nothing, not certified in knows nothing about it, and basically said, yeah, I ran some quotes. And I said, did the client reach out to you? Yes. Tell me why. Why do they want to know? So I think if we, as advisors to our clients, can start that conversation, and believe it or not, I think we start it early. I mean, like, we plant those seeds early. It takes a long time for a tree to get to, to full size. You got to plant that seed early. We can start these conversations in their 50s. I mean, we know folks are, if it's not relevant, how many times a week, a month do you see GoFundMe accounts start up? So I like the fact that you really have kind of put together a roadmap, if you will, for a sales process.
Yeah, Angie, I kind of looked around in the industry a little bit, and one thing you just hit on, and I kind of forget once in a while because we get thrown out a lot of different statistics, but back about 4 or 5 years ago, when John Hancock was still in the long-term care business, they did some research, and they asked the non-buyers of long-term care. They said, why are you not buying? And it was like 65 or 66% of the respondents. So 2/3 of the respondents came back and said they're waiting for their advisor
Yep.
to initiate the conversation. And so to your point, I started thinking about as I've kind of trademarked this, or we kind of put this together, but it's the extended care planning, however you want to look at it, but it's a roadmap, and it's a process that would walk a client or a family through a series of questions and logically start thinking about some of the emotional aspects of maybe needing care. How would we pay for the care? We unpack the what's available from a government perspective, Medicare and Medicaid, because there's some myths around that. And then ultimately we get into kind of some solutions. And I go back to my days in high school at the senior class play, and everybody had to memorize lines. And I got to thinking about that. If I can memorize my lines for the role that I was playing in the play, we need to do the same in this industry. We need to know some great questions. We need to memorize those. And so what we've done is put together some open-ended questions in each one of those 4 categories that kind of prompts the advisor, open-ended questions to get the client talking. That's the key to those questions. But it's also that roadmap, so we kind of keep focused as far as where we're going in this conversation to an end point, which is the solutions.
And what I heard was getting the client talking, which means we're not talking, because listening, I mean, like active listening, believe you me, I think we all can inactively listen. And if you don't believe me, look at everybody that's on Zooms these days, or even in meetings face to face. How many of them are texting under the table, right? They're not actively listening. But when I love this, because when you go through this roadmap of these questions, the who, the how, the what, and then the solutions, if you're actively listening and your client is the one speaking and you hear what they tell you, they are going to guide you to their problem that will allow you to find the right solution.
And that's so key, right? So instead of just throwing things out and hoping somebody bites, it goes back to those questions. And I will tell you the other part of that I've been a member of Toastmasters for probably 8 or 9 years. And Toastmasters is about giving a speech, but equally it's about listening to speeches and providing feedback. And so you start thinking about, I'm learning not only to provide a speech, but it's the listening aspect that really is key. And I will tell you this, that if you know what your next question is going to be, and you have that kind of in your mind where you're going to go, you can be engaged in the listening process of what they're saying, and you can be visual. You can, whether it's on a Zoom, you can kind of see how their body language is, but you can also tone inflection, voice inflection. What are they doing there? So if you pay attention to those aspects of it, because what happens is if you don't know what the next question is going to be, your mind, as soon as you ask a question, your mind starts going to what am I going to ask next? Right. And you're not listening. And so that I go back to this, if I know what my next question is going to be, I can be very active in this conversation, listening. And then I can, once I want to take notes, right? The other part of that is taking some good notes so that you can go back to that after the meeting, or tie those key points that the client is really sharing with you as you design the plan, customize it for them.
I love the analogy of the actors memorizing their lines in a play, because if some folks listening to this podcast have never actually been involved in the family dynamics of helping a loved one kind of navigate through a care situation, it really shouldn't be, doesn't have to be crisis planning. All insurances are bought on a proactive basis to negate any catastrophic loss. I don't care if it's homeowners, auto owners, life insurance, whatever the case is. Extended care planning does take some planning involved in that. And, I think just if at the small level, it's just me and my brother, right? And when my mom was going to doctor's appointments, he didn't live in the same state. So it was kind of always, Angie, have you talked to mom? Angie, have you seen mom? Angie, did you go to mom's doctor's appointment? So there's always that one that's actively engaged. Amplify that now to my mom with her mom. So my grandma, there's 9 of those kids. I mean, when they had to decide what to do with grandma, do we leave her in the nursing home? Well, no, we want to bring her home. Try all of those, those actors in that play and all those siblings. And if they don't have a conversation before the event, if you will, happens, it's hard. I mean, there's hurt feelings, there's the person that's very matter of fact, that seems very emotionless. There's the overly emotional person that wants to, do everything. It's a very tough thing to do, whether there's 1 sibling, 2 siblings, 10 siblings. It becomes dynamic. And I tell you, a lot of families are second marriages. So now you've got blended families. That enters a whole nother dynamic in that too. So conversations prior to the event is critical in the planning process.
Yeah, and I will tell you that from a life event and an extended care need, extended care, something happening with health, that is a life event. That's a life-changing event.
Mm-hmm.
And that aspect of that it with proper planning, at least then the family knows what mom or dad's wishes are, right? That's part of the extended care plan. They kind of know where care would be provided, how would be care, what income, what assets have been earmarked for the care.
Mm-hmm.
Did they fund it with a policy, or is it unfunded, right? So is it, private pay, so to speak. But having it on writing of what mom and dad's wishes, it takes the guesswork. And there's a part of that I think there's a guilt aspect of that, or I think it would remove the guilt.
Right.
Did we do the right thing for mom? Trying to think about that a little bit from the planning perspective. And this is the only event, or one of the major events in one's life, where maybe the family gets torn apart a little bit, where
Right.
they don't, the one brother or sister is not going to, they disagreed with it, or they were absent in the conversation, or they weren't active in the conversation, and there's guilt there that they couldn't be there because of maybe distance, family, or what have you, from that sandwich generation. But I think the guilt is another aspect that it just eliminates that.
It really, it does. And I tell you, it's when death occurs, it's very final. You deal with the day at hand, and then you have to step forward and start putting things together. When there's not a death, but it becomes a health situation, and you have to start thinking about what next, what do we do without that roadmap. And I love the roadmap that you have, right? This family's written plan on how to deal with an extended care event. It really is just designed to incite the conversation so that they can make a plan that's right for them. None of us are sitting here saying that everybody should own a One America policy, or everybody should have traditional, or everybody should have insurance. It's just having your plan so that you know what you're going to do when the event happens. And I've said it before. I've had things, happen to my friends and whatnot. And I've said it, there are worse things than death. And when you don't have a plan in place or an idea of what you're going to do when it's an extended care event, it's tough. Just keeping up with doctor's appointments for a parent, and keeping up with, did you check on mom today? How's dad doing? Did mom eat? Did dad take his meds? I mean, there's just, all of a sudden you're moving into this situation. And I think even Genworth, way back in the day, they promoted an entire campaign called Let's Talk. And that's really all it was have a conversation, start a conversation at our level, at the agent level with our consumers. And I think with this whole Washington thing that's transpired, and I think what it's doing, albeit everybody has an opinion on, is it going to work? Is it good? Is it bad? This, that, the other. It's given us a platform to get out there and say, look, there's more than just one state that's looking at this. There's 15 right now. Now is the time. We need to start the conversation about extended care planning. So your roadmap is fantastic. And you had a great analogy about hopping on a flight. I'd love you to share that.
Yeah, that's I'm for those that know me, I'm a very process driven. You kind of look at the process of that aspect, and I've always tried to use the analogy of putting together a plan. And so everybody has a plan. Some people have it's fly by the seat of your pants, and other people have really put it in writing, and they know. But something I was thinking about a topic that I was going to talk on a couple of weeks ago, and so there you can go out to a website, and I think it's called Flight Data or something like that. But
yeah, I think
if I'm
so.
flying from Kansas City to Denver, it will tell me the flight path that I will take, the elevation I will go. It will give me the milestones of getting across from point A to point B. And, that's that pilot in that plane. And I guess using this analogy of the advisor that's listening to this podcast, they're the pilot. They're driving, they're taking the plane from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
And in the absence of a written plan, or the absence of some, here's what we're going to do. I mean, we just can't get on the plane and, grab a compass and say, let's go west until we see some mountains, and then we'll land and we hope to be in Denver. That doesn't work. So
I'm
I'm
not going to be a passenger on that. I'm not buying a ticket on that plane.
And I'm not either. That's, so the whole goal of this flight plan is safety and confidence in getting from point A to point B, not only for the pilot, because they want to get home, but also for the passengers. And I think that's the same as this roadmap. The roadmap provides confidence and competence as it relates to just the conversation and giving you, there's a series of questions in each one of those 4 areas that we talked about. And maybe you pick out 2 or 3 that work with you or work for that situation. It's not interrogation, it's a conversation, but and these are just help guides. These are talking points that we want to kind of move the process along in a fairly we want to tie that emotional back to the logical aspect and kind of that what happens and what have we thought about this, and getting people to think about the ramifications of those decisions or lack of decisions, right? The impact to the family.
Yeah, it's very needs-based selling. I mean, they're open-ended questions. It's really a roadmap to a sales process. And like you said, Tim, all good salespeople have a sales process. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So if you don't have that roadmap for your sales process for extended care, long-term care, this is great. You can tweak it and make it your own. Your client base, who your customers are. What questions would maybe open them up to the conversation about extended care planning. Insert some of your own questions that you have found that works. If you don't have kind of your own written plan on how to get through this sales process, this is wonderful. And it really, what it does is it allows you to go through that whole needs-based selling, listen to what they say. They're going to guide you to their end solution. They're going to tell you their problem, the need, what their concerns are. And by the time you get down through all of this, and I love it because one of the boxes is labeled what? How many people confuse what Medicare and Medicaid are, and which one's paying for what? Are they both paying for extended care? I pay my taxes. We've all heard all the same stuff. It allows you to close all those objection doors as you're going through this. And I think this is fantastic, and it's certainly relatable, makes a nice process. So Yeah. If someone doesn't have that roadmap in their sales process or for their sales process, um, you got to reach out to me, because that's what Tim wants. He wants the, the acknowledgement and that people see that there is something out there and I can help the flow of this. This is great.
Yeah, that's just been, the roadmap is we're talking about today on the podcast is a process that drives a person from tell me about your family situation to
Mhm.
ultimately a solution or lack thereof or whatever. I mean, it's agnostic to product, right? This is
Right.
I mean, I One America will get its fair share of business, but it's
Yep.
not as we know, it's not the only game in town. We're not naive to think we are, but and so you got to do what's right for the clients, and that's the fiduciary responsibility, and we always
Mhm.
do that. We've always acted in that response or
Mhm.
that capacity. Um, so I think that's the key, and I think the worrisome part would be is if we never had the conversation as an
Yeah.
advisor,
Mhm.
and then somebody calls and says, "Hey, we're trying to find dad or mom's long-term care policy because dad had a stroke or mom's needing care, and you're their trusted advisor. We see your business card or we got stuff here from you. You've sold them other products. Did you do that? Did you sell them something?"
Mhm.
And if you've had the conversation, you can say, "You know what? I'm sorry, but your parents never moved forward. We did have the conversation, but this is what they came back with." And I'm okay with that. But
Yeah.
if you came back and said, "We never really could have, should have, might have,"
Yeah.
that's that's a tough one, right? As a financial advisor professional and helping clients. I think our whole goal of an advisor is to facilitate the conversation, whether they buy at the end of the day. That's up to the client, but we got to
Right.
give them some compelling reasons why, and help them kind of think through that process of maybe
Mhm.
the unintended consequences of not doing anything, or how does that impact my family, and
Yep.
is that something I want to lay at their doorstep, so to speak. And um,
Mhm.
that's the emotional aspect of why people buy what they buy. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. We buy insurance because we love someone. I mean, that's the whole purpose, to ensure your love, and extended care is definitely one of them. And so, Tim, I don't want to cut you off or anything of that nature. So if there's anything else you want to add, I absolutely want to leave that door open. I'm sure our listeners are enjoying this and wondering how they can get their hands on this roadmap. So of course you can
well,
always
and I
reach out to me.
yeah, that's what I was going to say is that you have that, and we can do some additional training on that.
Hmm.
There's some we talk about role play, right? So I hope
Yeah.
and that's old school in some respects, but it's a safe environment. I mean, I kind of look at Toastmasters as we all want somebody to succeed with their speech. It's not nobody's there. We're all there to help somebody build them up, as opposed to this is and so the same thing with this roadmap, some training with it, practicing it a couple times,
Hmm.
and then go out and you got to present it a couple times. I mean, you just can't do it once and say, "Didn't
Right.
work, I'm going to throw it away." But I always say 10 times, right? You got to try it 10 times. And if you follow the process, if you ask the questions, it will lead the client through a logical process.
Hmm.
It will give you the confidence as the advisor of product design. You got Angie and her team, a great resources to kind of pull together the product at the back end. This is not a product sell; it's really that needs. I think you mentioned that, Angie.
Hmm.
It's really to probably determine in less than 30 minutes if the clients, they are they a prospect to move forward with a solution, or do I move on to somebody else because they're going to, maybe, for whatever reason they decided not to take action, and that's okay too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
appreciate having the opportunity to share this with you, and of course you have it. So those advisors listening today, reach out to Angie for sure and get a copy, and we can sure help and support you as needed.
I love it. I love it. Tim, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast in the month of September. I really appreciate it. I'm sure I'll be inviting you back because we always have great conversation. So thank you very much. And folks, thanks for joining the podcast.